I arrive as I am, whole, grounded, and aware. I open this space in honesty, anchored in breath, body, and truth. Nothing is summoned, nothing is borrowed, no thing is given away. Only what is coherent, sincere, and rooted in love may be present here. I stand in clarity. I listen without reaching. I speak without distortion. This space is held by integrity alone, and I shall begin. I am Kenrael. I don't speak from having everything resolved. I speak from having stayed long enough to learn what was real. Much of what I share comes from lived experience, from moments where seeking stopped working and embodiment became the only honest option. I gathered I've gathered tools along the way, yes, but more importantly, I've learned when not to use them. Discernment has become as valuable as action. Not much has stopped me from embodying my truth. No thing ever will. But moving forward, I choose refinement over reaction, clarity over urgency, and coherence over noise. What I offer isn't instruction or certainty, it's orientation. If something here resonates, take it. If it does not, leave it without force. I share only what has been tested in my own life, what has helped me stand more fully in myself, with the hope that it may help others do the same. That's all this is, and that's enough. I give thanks to the Divine Mother within me. I give thanks to my divine spiritual team. Ahoa. So today, I had this bright idea to share a spirit travel which is in coordinates with a transmission. Here I speak on a rite of standing in the water. I entered a place that felt both old and alive. There was a building, auburn in color, its surface wrapped in green vines, as if time itself had decided not to erase it but to soften it. The light outside was bright, yet I felt covered, protected, not hidden, healed. So to me, what I picked up on, seeing a lot of old infrastructures that was completely wrapped in green vines and had a lot of nature covering it. So to me, what was taking place was all family ties, old ways of becoming successful, quotation mark, and Let's go to my notes. Feeling sustainable will no longer be. That is not the route. Not only myself will no longer be taken, but many of us. If you so choose, right? Let's go over the complete transmission first, and then I'll go back to the notes that I have. I began to walk. As I moved forward, I noticed an old elevator, also wrapped in vines. It stood still, unused. I didn't feel the need to enter it. Something in me knew I wasn't meant to rise or descend the old way anymore. So I kept walking, on foot, on choice, on presence. I came across food, plenty of it, but none of it called to me. Then I saw yogurt, my favorite kind, and felt a flicker of excitement, just for a moment. When I reached for it, I noticed the containers had already been opened, eaten from, taken. I recognized the feeling immediately and thought almost gently, she would do something like that. There was no anger, no grief, just knowing. I didn't stay there. I didn't argue with the moment. I continued on. Later, I encountered a woman who reminded me of someone I knew. She asked, what was I looking for? Smiling nervously, I told her, slowly, honestly, that I was looking for yogurt, especially the key lime kind. She reached for what seemed to be the last one and began to eat it herself. She laughed, I smiled back, and again I moved on. At some point, the ground changed. I realized I was walking through water. It rose to my hips, covering my legs, yet I wasn't struggling. I wasn't sinking. I stepped onto a large rock, steady enough to stand on, steady enough to sit. As I looked around, I noticed 6 frogs. They were different colors, each patterned uniquely. And it's very interesting because I used to be greeted by 2 toads. So they sat upright and still placed intentionally as if they had already arrived before I did. They didn't move when I approached. They didn't speak. They didn't guide. They simply waited. And in that moment, something quiet but absolute happened. I became aware that I was submerged in water, and suddenly the thought of food left my body entirely. Not just hunger for food, but hunger for anything outside myself. No people, no approval, no reassurance, no searching. No thing was missing. I was already standing in the source. When I closed my eyes again, there were no more scenes, only patterns, motion, images without words, meaning without instruction, integration without effort. The journey didn't end because it was unfinished. It ended because nothing else was required. The lessons that remain. I learned that some hungers are not real needs. but habits formed when nourishment once had to come from somewhere else. I learned that not every disappointment requires reaction. Some only require recognition. I learned that maturity does not always look like having more, but like needing less explanation, less chasing, and less proof. I learned that when the body knows it is held, seeking dissolves on its own. And I learned that there is a moment in growth where you stop looking to be fed, not because you are deprived, but because you realize you are already in the water. If you find yourself reaching, pause. Notice where you are standing. Notice what is already supporting you. Ask yourself quietly, am I hungry, or have I simply forgotten where I am? Then stand there a moment longer than you usually would. That is the right. Now, before I close out, let's see if I can find my notes. So yeah, pretty much still the same eternal being I have always been. The deepest truth of the journey. So the moment food left the awareness was the death of compensatory seeking. Not desire, not pleasure, not enjoyment, but this specific mechanism. If I find the right source, I will finally be fulfilled. And why this matters. This was an outdated belief that dissolved somatically. So most people heal, right, by managed hunger. When there is indeed another threshold where hunger itself was revealed as a misinterpretation of signal. So hunger, in a sense, was no longer lack or misdirected attention away from what's already sustaining you. This is where the development has begun. This is what secure autonomy feels like before language. So something within the maternal line has freed itself. Early in life, regulation came from the mother, or an ideal version or fantasy of one, or substitutes, partners, teachers, peers, and then the system. But on this journey, This was the moment the maternal archetype releases its authority. Presence, although familiar, no longer feeding you. Not because it failed, but because its job is complete. Where you can finally feel as though no one no longer has to provide because the body has learned how to do it itself. And on a cellular level, that is when your blood, okay, it's deeper than just, I'm not going to go in that direction, but your blood is now entering into adulthood. It has to mature. I've read that. And it's actually true. It is indeed cellular and scientifically there. So, why there were 6 of the frogs and why they didn't move. Each one represented a fragmented adaptation and that no longer needs to compete for control. So different survival strategies that used to say, I need food, I need approval, I need to be chosen, I need to be special, I need to be safe, I need to be seen. Now they are upright, still, in place, and not performing. So that stillness means no internal civil war. So they didn't approach because there was nothing left to negotiate. They were waiting only in a sense that they had already arrived. So I'm going to add this. Right. What if the thing you're chasing isn't missing? What if you've just never been taught how to stand inside it? So if you stop chasing it, what would still be here? So there is a lot of things to be noticed in this present moment. Breath, weight, contact, and sensation. Replace seeking with inhabiting. And now we shall close out. Oh, hey, no more waiting, no more waiting. Let it go, let it go, let it go. Closing invocation. I stand in my own presence, rooted in breath, body, in truth. Let there be no proxy for my voice, no borrowing of my words without understanding, no repetition without embodiment. What is not lived may not speak through me. I claim authorship of my meaning. What passes through me must pass clean. Anything formed from hunger, from imitation, from performance, from distortion may fall away now. I do not need to defend what is real. Truth stabilizes itself. I choose honesty over harmony, love over attachment, clarity over comfort. What aligns with coherence may remain. What does not is released without force, without fear, without residue. I tend my inner flame, not as spectacle, not as weapon, but as witness. Only what is rooted in honesty, love, and truth may move with me, work through me, or be carried forward in my name. I am here, I am whole, I stand where no thing needs to be taken. I'm already within and standing inside of my own sanctuary, built as I decree by the Divine Mother. And so it is, and so it is.